Of its meeting regarding members allegedly fingered in tender corruption. Let's go there now live.
Answer session, and then he will respond, and then we can then attend to radio. Most of radio stations are calling because they want interviews. And if any of you would like to have an interview later on, you'll meet with me outside so that we can schedule them nicely and then see who do we deploy to which radio station. Thank you so much. Provincial Secretary Jacob Kawe.
No, thank you, Comrade Bones, and good morning. I am greeting you who are here and the ANC members in Gauteng and the communities of our province, Gauteng. We want to report back, and the reason of doing so is in line with the principles of accountability, and that at all material times the ANC in particular have got to account to its membership and to the people of our province. We are counting on on basically two matters that necessitated a special PEC meeting which was held last night, the 29th of July 2020. Firstly is that the PEC has made an observation that it would have been our first PEC meeting without Comrade Mapiti Matsena, who was brutally murdered 2 weeks ago. And we were, all of us acknowledged and felt his absence in the meeting, his sharp mind, calm character, and always making reference to the Constitution. We're also acknowledging and congratulating those who worked hard to ensure that Isitwalandwe, Ndade, and Rumlangen gets a funeral he deserves. And we are part of South Africans who wish him well as he goes home. The meeting further noted that today, the 30th of July, we will be ordinarily celebrating 100 years of Ndade Herigwala, the Lion of Midlands. And as Comrade Bone said, we will be joining various activities in the province. We have a dialogue in Eguruleni and in the Val, just to reconnect Gwala with that black-on-black sponsored violence by the Nationalist Party government. And that led to the Bipato massacre of 1992 and the violence in Thokoza. So we invite everybody today to remember Herigwala, who among other things in the ANC, he represents fearless. He represents honesty, and he represents a character that has always been close to the people, working with the people at all times, rather than leading people from far. Then we went to the real two issues. The PEC noted the disruptions around electricity in our province. This electricity problem emanates from your normal load shedding challenges of Eskom, emanates from the electricity cuts as a result of bills and credit measure between Eskom and municipalities, and it results as criminal element of stealing cables. But its impact on our people is that during winter, our people get subjected into unfavorable conditions. Two, that it has created conflict between councillors, particularly ward councillors, with communities, because genuinely communities would have elected a councillor, and it should be a councillor that accounts why there's no electricity. But we know that ward councillors have nothing really to do with the matter. It is a matter between the leadership of Eskom and the leadership of various municipalities. The PEC therefore delegated the officials of the province, the chairperson of the province in his capacity as a premier, together with other officials, all executive mayors of the province, to have an agent engagement with the minister and the senior leadership of ESCOM. And we do this in the interest of the people who get to suffer as a result of any engagement between ESCOM and our communities. And the PEC puts it clear that the discussions that belong to a boardroom about finances and about relations should not affect communities. But equally, that communities have to help where there's criminal elements, safeguard the resources and the cables of ESCOM in ensuring that we always have lights in our houses. This meeting, the PEC resolved that it should be held by Monday, the latest, to deal with the ESCOM challenge. Nothing much will do about load shedding and other related matters of ESCOM, but specifically on decisions to cut and on mechanisms to save the equipment of ESCOM, in particular the cables that get stolen. The second issue, which was a big issue and it took long for us to debate and discuss and resolve, was as it relates to what is in the public domain, the COVID-19 procurement processes at Health Department. The PEC acknowledged the decision of the officials and the PwC to convene a special meeting because everybody is talking about this matter. And when the people who have deployed and the leadership of the province has not spoken on the matter. And we want to thank the media houses for working with us in the process of finding, one, accepting the due processes of the ANC, that when we are confronted with such, we don't just respond and rush to press conferences, but that we follow process of engagement. And this process, among others, included an engagement with comrades whose name has been mentioned in the report. The PEC received the report of government, and we noted that in the report there's a lot of things that requires further investigation. One of those is the fact that companies did not apply for tender or contract as normal. There was a special arrangement, and this arrangement, the way it is like an official in the department would call companies who would say they can provide, have a discussion with these companies, and award a letter to a company. And this is against the normal procurement, and we understand partly that it because of the nature of the problem we're dealing with and the agency of the matter in having PPEs. But it also demonstrates that the government was open to manipulation, and therefore the PEC immediately resolved that the provincial government has to respond to the people of Gauteng very soon on the details of how would have that been allowed to happen in the department, to verification of whether indeed there was a tender bonanza, where it was like wagogo, ungumuntu yezuzo katata hamba ekai. You know, tineskule wagogo, we know the difference with wagogo gumnandu kulekaya. And we said that the department has to, the provincial government, the premier of the province in particular, has to give a report to the communities of Gauteng about that procurement process and about the validation of the allegations laid by the media house on various companies that are listed in the reports, including the company that it's alleged to be closer to our members, which will come to that point. The second resolution of the PEC is that the provincial government, the Premier in particular, have got to impress upon the SIU that when you institute an investigation, some matters requires agency. And COVID has demonstrated that everything we do under COVID, it must be soon, it must be immediate. So you can't argue this side that you were appointing people quicker because it was COVID, but when you investigate, you are slower. So once you say COVID impressed upon all of us to move with speed and work differently, it means even the investigations and the interest of facts that the people of our province want should be treated with emergency. So therefore, we have asked the Premier to ensure, we know that he doesn't have a direct control over SIU, but we also say this matter requires the Premier to impress upon SIU that at least in a period of 4 weeks, a report must be presented. And this report would also clear everybody whose name is mentioned. But the ANC interest is to find corruption. And where there is act of corruption, there must be action immediately, irrespective as to who is involved. As it relates to the specific allegation of a company whose proximity is closer to our leaders in the Provincial Executive Committee, and our leaders, it's Comrade Kusela Diko, Comrade Bandile Masuku. The PEC, after a deliberation, noting, of course, the statements and the reports that these comrades have provided the leadership of the ANC and the public. And I must say that these two leaders have said publicly and have said in the ANC there is nothing wrong they have done. The PEC did receive a report of their engagement with the provincial secretary, and the details of the report was discussed by the PEC. However, the PEC has resolved that we as the ANC, at this moment, whether we like it or not, the objective reality is that we are losing trust amongst the people on our ability and capability and commitment to deal with corruption. Two, that the leadership of the ANC at all times must know that whatever they do does implicate the character and the integrity of the party, and that the individual actions have to be understood against the noble principle of organizational renewal, because the ANC, it got to renew itself. And our conference where we were elected made that point quite clear, that we need a different type of leadership, those who stand for the party first rather than their individual interest, no faction, no friends, no group, but that the organization must come first at all material times. And this is what guides us as we discuss. In discussing this, we're not undermining the natural law of natural justice. We're not finding anybody guilty. We just believe that there must be a process that demonstrates respect to the concerns raised across society, but in particular for ANC itself. The ANC further noted that as I said earlier on, the SIU is already dealing with the matter, and we separated the issue of SIU to a normal ANC process. The normal ANC process is to look at its members, their role, their contribution. It is not to really make a determination of guilty or not guilty, but is to have a discussion on political consciousness and the integrity of the party. It is against this background that the PIC has resolved that both Comrade Bandile and Comrade Kusela be subjected to the Provincial Integrity Committee. And we're doing this guided by the request that both these comrades have made. So both Comrade Kusela and Comrade Bandile would have written letters to the party requesting of a process that can clear them. And we think in the ANC, the first process that can help you as a member but help the party, it is the Integrity Committee. So they are going to the Integrity Committee with immediate effect. And furthermore, the PEC has resolved that the Integrity Committee has to finish its work between 2 to 4 weeks. And we're putting a time frame because of our experience that it is not always easy for the PIC to conclude its reports on time. But again, what we say to government, we're saying to ourselves. We're saying to government, SIU has to operate within covert principles of agency, and therefore the ANC itself must operate within the principles of agency. And that's why we're giving the PIC 2 to 4 weeks. Included in the allegation, it's Comrade Diko and Masukus, who basically, her contribution is alleged to be using a position as a wife to the MEC. We equally had a discussion with her, because she's also a member and a leader of the ANC. She is the Deputy Secretary of the region in Johannesburg. She is the MMC in Johannesburg and a leader of the movement, besides being a wife. And we discussed her in the context of her role in the organization, and not much about being a wife, but as a leader of the ANC who is also alleged to be using another status to be doing what is alleged to have done. And consistent with the decisions we've taken on Comrade Bandile and Comrade Kusela, the PC resolved that Comrade Loyiso too must be subjected to the PIC. Additional to the decision of the PC on the PIC, because we think the PIC will provide everybody with an opportunity of fairness, with an opportunity to present themselves, and the opportunity to defend the integrity of the organization. The PC furthermore resolved to welcome a decision taken by Comrade Kusela to take a leave of absence from her task as the spokesperson of the president. And consistent with that, the PC felt that it is important to have one approach in dealing with one case, and that we don't have this member subjected to this condition and that member subjected to another condition, and that both Comrade Loyiso and Comrade Kusela, Comrade Bandile, be on temporary leave of absence for the duration of 2 to 4 weeks, while the processes of SIU together with the internal process of a PIC is taking place. We took this decision in the interest of clean governance. We equally took this decision not as an accepting a possibility that these comrades are guilty, but we took this decision as a fair process that would allow everybody an opportunity to present their case. What is good with the Integrity Committee of the ANC, it's also a moment of self-correct. It's not a guillotine where you go and you are slaughtered. It's a moment of self-reflection. It's a moment of engagement with the elderly community of our organization, where you have an opportunity to say, looking at it from hindsight, perhaps we could have acted differently. So we are subjecting our comrades into a proper political process that will build them, but that will defend the integrity of the ANC. And this is as far as the collective view of the provincial leadership in the party has concluded on this matter. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Provincial Secretary Jacob Kawe. We'll move to our next session, Q&A. If there are any questions, seems like you've covered. No one has a question, so we can move. We know the norm. Just say the media house. You know the introduction and the media house, and then just shoot straight to the question. The PS will know the question, will respond to them, and then we'll just check if there's that clarity-seeking question from the respondent. Because unfortunately it comes natural. So I'll start with you, you'll be number 1, and then I'll move to you, you'll be number 2, and then the lot of media will be number 3.
Oh.
Yeah, in that fashion.
Okay. My name is Malungi Boy from Newsroom Africa. I just need to get an understanding. The Masukus and Diko, I suppose they explained themselves to you. Were you satisfied by the explanation that they gave to you? 2, you're asking them, the Masukus, to step aside from their roles. I suppose those are their roles in government. Is that with immediate effect, as in now? Thank you.
Number 2.
All right. Really treat the ETV News and Sports. Just want to ask 2 questions. I know, Claire, you said that there was the PEC that took place yesterday, and of course they've received 2 reports. Just quick one. What happens if they are found guilty? And the PIC, when they are subjected to the PIC, the reports come out that yes, indeed, they were in the middle of this controversy and were found guilty, since, well, you said there were also discrepancies within the tender awarding process. And 2, political organizations and civil organizations are also talking about the CFO who resigned, saying her absence in this whole matter, her going quiet, is also suspicious. Are you also looking into that as the organization? Thank you.
Number 3.
Thank you very much. Some get on myself from the SABC. No bad. Did the MEC and the PwC member, Diko, provide you with the cancellation letter of this particular contract from Rural Park? Because they are saying the contract was cancelled. Can you have proof of the cancellation letter? If this was not provided to the ANC's special PEC meeting or to the provincial secretary in the meeting we had with them, why wasn't it provided? And then there have been also allegations that other senior members of the parties, of other people who've got links to the senior members of the party, also got some of these contracts. One of the companies is Tour Rhodesia. Do you have any? Tour Rhodesia. It's linked to, apparently or allegedly, to one of the NEC members' kids. How did this contract come about? Yet this company was formed last year. Then lastly, the premium. Who's going to, did he take the PEC into confidence on the SIU investigations? What did these investigations say about the procurement system in the Department of Health in Gauteng? And who's going to be the acting Minister of Health since Mandela Masuku is taking a leave of absence? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's give the peers an opportunity to respond. And if you still feel that you are seriously agitated, we can then come back. It's a 4-4-2 formation.
No, thank you for the questions. Was I satisfied? My task was to give members of the ANC an opportunity to give their side of the story and to take a report to a collective of the PEC. So that was my mandate. I was not, unfortunately, mandated make a determination whether I'm satisfied or not. That's quite a difficult task. Was the PEC satisfied with the explanation? Yes, it was. It was satisfied that comrades have been able to clarify the issues as it relates to their involvement on the procurement process. But the PEC felt that there is a need to have a conversation on the allegations about proximity and conflict of interest. And that they needed a platform for them too, because the PEC is not that platform. So it is on that basis that the PEC felt it was necessary to go this route. The leave of absence, yes, it is with immediate effect. It is with immediate effect and I want to put it correctly, for Comrade Loyiso Masuku as MMC in Johannesburg, and for Comrade Bandile Masuku as MEC of Health in Gauteng, and accepting the leave by Comrade Khosela Diko in this respect. What happens if the PIC finds them guilty? Our procedure in the ANC is that the PIC, it's like all other subcommittees of the PEC. It does its work and then it reports to the PEC. It makes recommendations to the PEC, and the PEC, upon receiving the recommendations, it makes a decision. So we can have this discussion at the time when PIC brings a report, and we would have a better discussion in that respect. And I don't want to speculate what would the PIC do, because if we do so, then why do we go to the PIC? So let's give it 2 to 4 weeks, and we can have a discussion. We got to know of the role of the CEO as we are asking the details of procurement. This question is linked to the other question about, and the best way to deal with this matter is to seek for evidence. And the best institution to give that is the SIU. So the SIU has to come back to us via the Premier, of course, and give a detailed report on the ownership of these companies, the amounts listed of the contracts, the value for money, who is involved, and whether is there evidence of wrongdoing, and if there is, the ANC has said to the Premier there must be action. So we'll end here on this matter, because I don't want to enter into who is alleged, and it's always nice to focus on the leadership of the ANC. Once SU comes with more details, we will have a discussion on even the company you have asked me about. Did the Premier take the ANC into confidence on the SIU? The Premier took us into confidence on the request made by MEC Masuku for an audit. And the audit suggested an investigation. And in the investigation, that's where you involve the SIU. So not yet, up until there is a better report in this regard. Did Comrade Khosela share with the PEC the letter of cancellation? No, we didn't ask her to share the letter. In my meeting with her, in the engagement with her, in the engagement in the PEC, we reported what she said. As I said, that the structure that can give Comrade Khosela more opportunity, it is the PIC. The PEC was discussing the nature of political implications and impact of the allegation. But the details of issues will be presented before the PIC, and the PIC will be the one that briefs the PEC on all those details. Because if we do so, we would be changing the function and the role of the PEC subjecting Comrade Kusela into a hearing that is not regulated in any constitution of the ANC. So there's no PEC hearing where we are required to be bringing documents and so on. But the political principle taken by the PEC is that all evidence, all correspondences that exist, be it in the social media or be it the material that comrades have, will be shared with the PIC. Who is going to act? That's the function of the Premier. At least for now in our province, we're quite clear about the functions. That's a function of the Premier in consultation with the ANC. And I can assure you that when I leave here, we're going to have that discussion as officials with the ANC. It would have not been morally correct to have that discussion before you announce your decision on the MEC. And we'll only now have that discussion as to who will act. But what the PEC said to the Premier and the Executive is that Comrade Bandile and the department have been doing well generally in the fight against COVID. We acknowledge the work done and the capacity of a leader who we have deployed in that department, and we have no doubt on that. And we requested the Premier to ensure that this 2 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks break by Dr. Masuku does not necessarily represent a reverse of what provincial government has been doing. So Gauteng provincial government has been doing well in the big fight we are having, and we acknowledge the good work they are doing, and we want the Premier to know that whoever who comes into the department has to fit those big shoes for that period of the process of PIC and the process of SIU. And the rest we'll talk after the investigations and the engagement with the PIC. Thank you.
Thank you, Nopala. We'll move to 352 formation. We'll start right there at the back, and this is the very last round. We'll come to you, Sankelo. We'll come to you, I did not catch your name, Pule. We'll come to you, and then you will vala it.
Okay,
and then we're done. The PS will respond for one last time, and then that will be it. So let's start right there at the back. The normal formalities, my brother, you are used to these things.
My name is Baldwin Daba from the staff. Mr. Kawe, you say it was the ANC received the shocking report to school. There was a quack walk or a tender announced. But one of your own, who happens to be your deputy, issued a statement on April 2nd saying the her department, provincial treasury, will centralize the procurement of COVID-19. What happened to that? Doesn't it suggest that there's political instability within your own party?
Okay. Samkele?
No, pardon. Why wasn't a similar approach used against those who were accused of investing money in DBS? Why didn't you use a similar approach? Is this by any ways linked, particularly with the tender bonanza in COG or in the department? Is this linked to the succession that is currently under discussion, not officially, within your party in the region Johannesburg? There have been murmurs that Loyiso Masuku wants to take over as regional chairperson and mayor after Jeff Makum. She even issued out a statement in this regard saying that she's not interested. And the newspaper article by Pete Rampedi of Sunday Independent also alludes to a similar battle of raising funds for future ANC contestation. Is this linked to the malfeasance of manipulation and the use of money in getting people elected in your organization? Thank you.
Number 3, Pule.
Mr. Kawe, according to what we understand is that sources within the SIU say that the Premier had received alerts to say, look, you need to look into the malfeasance that's going on into this whole corruption within the health department. What was the delay for him to act when he had received such tip-offs in the beginning, which have now led to this outcome? And two, does the ANC then say that all these shenanigans that are happening, or allegations linked to the party, are tainting its integrity badly and losing the confidence of the people? Because the SIU does say that they're looking into 100 proclamations, and from those proclamations, there are about 90 companies which they investigated to have allegedly also being awarded these tenders. Does this mean, like my colleague has said, that there's a lot of political interference that's going on in this whole scheme and organization?
Number 4.
Okay, my name is Diko. I'm with the SABC. No bad.
That.
What is this doing to the brand ANC, these allegations of corruption? And I'm saying this against the backdrop of the ANC eyeing the 2021 possibly local elections. What do you think this is doing to the brand of the ANC? Because down there, people are saying the ANC now has become synonymous to corruption. And maybe secondly, MEC Diko and Masukus will be on an extended or temporary or just a leave. In the meantime, what will be happening? Because I'm thinking if he's away from his core responsibilities, then there will be a vacuum. Do you have any name maybe that you would recommend to the Premier in terms of carrying out his responsibility, and who would that be? That's my second.
Malungelo, the last player to kick the penalty.
Mr. Kawa, one of the things you said was that you were told that an official would be calling these companies, right? Was there a list that already existed, where somebody would just decide, okay, let me call this company? How did it work? Did this official just decide, okay, I'm going to choose this company, and that's the number that I'm going to call? Or, these companies were first discussed. Just something doesn't make sense here.
Okay, thank you. Pierce will respond. And then, like we indicated, after the response, that will be it, so we can then quickly rush to the other engagement. Pierce?
So it's like the penalty session now.
Yeah, Wafawa.
Now, thank you very much. We have resolved as the PEC that the Premier and Gauteng government got to give an account to the people of our province on the procurement processes in health and in every department as it relates to COVID. We know that the issues have been raised around April, May by Dr. Masukus, who is the MEC, and that the Gauteng government resolved to have a detailed investigation. And the ANC is asking for agency on the matter. Fortunately, this afternoon, the Premier and the Cabinet will be speaking to the people of Gauteng. They have a press conference as we resolved as the ANC. And I'm sure some of the questions about the details of the happenings in the department, the role of the CFO, who had subsequently resigned, the decision to centralize procurement will be better answered in that session. And I'm sure they will, and they should. answer that. What I don't understand, but it's a nature of politics, it's why would you make a conclusion about political instability in the party? Because this party, the PIC in particular, has never been paralyzed when it had to take decisions. And inside government, I am sure there are imperatives that pushes the departments and the cabinet to resolve on centralizing procurement. But I just want to say it has no relationship with any politics of the PEC. I would be the first to tell you that there is political instability. There is no political instability in our province. We are united even in taking hard, difficult decisions. We do so through proper processes of engagement. So what I may say is that there isn't something called political instability. The issue about the Premier receiving alerts earlier, yes, you are right, he did receive the alerts. Among other people who alerted him is the MEC, Dr. Masukus. And those alerts have led to the investigations that are going on. So it's an alert, and then it's a formalized decision of investigation, and the SIU formally take the matter. We, as the ANC, where we are, there has not been a formal report of the SIU as it relates to COVID-19 allegations of procurement. When such a report we get, we will discuss that report. And when members of the ANC are implicated in the report, would want an action to be taken similar to those who are not members of the ANC. So if somebody is accused and found to have been corrupt, it must not be whether you are an ANC member or not. It must be about stealing from the public. And would want the media to also do so, to also focus to those who are not members of the ANC, the same way as we focus to those who are ANC members. What does it do to the brand ANC? The brand ANC, it's always and should be always under scrutiny. To govern people, you've got to move from a premise that it is on their will and that they give you a permission to govern them on the basis that they are convinced that you are credible. And we are mindful of that fact. And that's why at all times we think that the decisions we are taking in the province that relates to allegations on our members, it's consistent. We have members of the PEC who have not been found guilty by any court of law, but we have asked them to step aside until this matter is resolved. And we are equally frustrated when SIU doesn't conclude this work, because we don't know whether a member is guilty or not guilty. But in the interest of the brand, ANC members are asked to step aside. And as I said, this is not by any means to undermine law of natural justice, but it is in principle to respect the brand. And we do everything every day, not only on this matter, on dealing with ESCOM. It affects the brand of the ANC, failure of clinics to operate. It affects the brand ANC, failure of the municipalities to provide services. It affects the brand ANC. So brand ANC has to rise above personal interest and maintain itself as a 108 years brand whose all members are younger than the ANC. I think now, because elderly people are going, Gogo Bomvana has left, who is same age with the ANC in Alexander. But basically, the brand is bigger than everybody. And we've got to do our work acknowledging that. We must say to the people of our province that there are instances where we would have not acted with necessary speed, and we should be understood in the sense that it's always good to have due process. It's always good to give people an opportunity to present themselves. It's always good to process things properly. It may be slow and many people may not be happy. But once a determination is made, this PEC has always been consistent in how we deal with issues. And Malungelo, I think I have answered on the CFO that broad question will go into the package that must be answered by the Premier. It must be answered today, and it must be answered in a final report of the department. The politics of this matter, because you're bringing politics that we did not discuss as the PEC. No single PEC member spoke about succession debate in Johannesburg. We hear it in the media. Privileged information is that in my discussion with Comrade Loyiso on her role as it relates to these matters was that these are perhaps allegations raised by those who don't like her. And in politics, there are two things that makes people not to like you. It's your personal conduct and circumstances that you are not in control of. And therefore, we take it that there is no formal engagement. But we must report that the officials in the province have had discussions with the officials of Johannesburg. And we were a bit concerned about the seemingly disunity among the collective. And we were assured by the officials of Johannesburg that they are working every day in ensuring that they build unity of the party and that the united party will focus in governing Johannesburg and resolve the inherent problems of a failed DA-run municipality. And we have said to them, you can't help govern, improve service delivery for the people of Johannesburg when we are divided and focusing on each other. You can do well when you are united and focused on the real challenges confronting the people of Johannesburg. And then the rest will be proven by the PIC. So on record, we don't have that discussion about the succession debate in Johannesburg. Why not similar, and that's my last question, why not similar approach with the VBS? It is similar. The difference here, and I'll tell you why, because we had a discussion in the PEC. When the VBS matter came, the province subjected the mayors before the PIC, and the same as Comrade Kusel and Bandile, Comrade Boise, and Comrade Mappe, for us to be subjected to the PIC. And the PEC agreed to do so, and they were subjected. So it's the same. The PIC engaged on the work and came to a determination, and it reported to the PEC. The PEC reported to the officials because VBS was more of a national issue. And the officials have subsequently said, no, it's your matter in Gauteng, deal with it. And yesterday we were reminded that there is a need to speedily resolve that matter. And I can say as a secretary of the province, the VBS matter will come back to you, the people of West Rand and the people of Gauteng next week. What looks different, which it is a new thing we're imposing on ourselves. And we're doing so because generally, if you still part of the process and you still work in the department, you may, as an individual yourself, lose focus. For every time you interact with people, there is a cloud hanging over a member. Two, so it is in the interest of the member. But three, it is in the interest of the public and the credibility of our process. And that when you are aside, you are not perceived to be in the space mingling with issues, but that you allow process to go smooth. And the third reason, really, it's the agency of the matter. So we don't want somebody who will say to PIC, I'm in a cabinet meeting, I'm in an EXCO meeting, I'm in that meeting. We want people to be available so that then it allows space to have that proper engagement. So that's the only emphasis now, is that leave of absence. And we have called upon all ANC members and the PC leaders and MECs and mayors and speakers and chief whips that to think hard about this, because it's quite a good thing to do, that when you are under allegations, you just step aside a bit and you allow the process. And we think it is in the interest of the party and in the interest of the individual. But to answer you directly, where is the VBS matter? The VBS matter will be concluded next week, and we will come back, as we did today, to the community of the province, to specifically the people of Merafong and West Rand, and we will provide clarity. The report is really not far from processing. It only awaits a PwC meeting and a special PEC meeting, and once we do so, we will come back and report. Thank you.
Thank you, Nopala. We indicated earlier that this is going to be a new normal. Any decisions that the ANC Gauteng PIC is going to take pertaining to public interest, we will call this type of setup, will account to the people of Gauteng. I just want to advise you that we've got less than an hour to go to Omonde, to the press briefing of the Premier of the province that is taking place now at 12.
It's now 1.
Or it's moved to 1.
Yeah, it's now 1.
No, sir.
It's now 1.
Please get used to the fact
we wanted to have
issues
enough time for the party.
Will forever come to you. Hold us accountable. You've been great. You've been doing great since this story broke. Don't let go. Don't lose the eye on the ball. Continue doing this. Continue being consistent. Continue holding us accountable. If you want the secretary, just come to me and say, can we have the secretary at this particular time? We'll avail the secretary.
Moral beauty.
No. So
even if you are accused of corruption, you are available.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we hope to build a solid relationship so that the people of Gauteng can at least know that if so-and-so is in that press conference, if so-and-so is in that press conference, at least the questions that we have as community will be able.
All right, breaking news on the agenda's watch. The African National Congress in Gauteng communicating the outcomes of a special PEC meeting. The provincial secretary met with the Premier and the deployees whose names have been mentioned in the procurement processes of PPEs meant for COVID-19 pandemic. The PEC received a report, we're told, from government and found that issues needs further investigations. Now, questions around whether normal processes were followed when applying for tenders has been raised. The ANC wants government to find out if there was a tender bonanza. That's the words they use, a tender bonanza. So at this stage, they say there's a loss of trust among people in terms of the party's ability to deal with corruption. So the party has resolved that both Kusela Diko and Dr. Bandile Masukus must be subjected to the Provincial Integrity Committee with immediate effect. With regards to the Johannesburg MMC, Loyiso Masuku, she too will be subjected to the PIC, the Provincial Integrity Committee. They have also asked that Loyiso and Bandile Masuku take a leave of absence with immediate effect. We're going to get more with regards to what does this mean in terms of who steps in as MEC for Health in Gauteng. There is a provincial command council led by Premier David Makura that was scheduled to happen at 12 o'clock. We heard from that press briefing that has now been moved to 1 o'clock. So we'll get more information on that. Our reporter Crisalda Lewis is standing by as well to give us an update in terms of expectations. Great expectations, one would say. So stand by for that. All right, in other news, ANC and South African Communist Party leader Harry Gwala would have turned 100 years old today. He was imprisoned on Robben Island twice between 1964 and 1972 and 1977 and 1988. The Harry Gwala